Jeffrey Epstein, the pedo pimp. Alright, so the official news story is that he committed suicide in his cell. And I don't believe it. I believe everybody else is saying it was a hit, that they killed him. I don't believe that. I believe that they extracted him or just let him go, because that's how it goes. And alright, I'm going to go over and read the official report. Google.com. Intelligencer. Jeffrey Epstein. Everything we know about Jeffrey Epstein's death. The millionaire, financier, and convicted sex offender was found dead by suicide in his jail cell on Saturday morning. He was awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges in Manhattan's Metropolitan Correctional Center after being accused of sexually abusing dozens of underage girls. He was 66. The details of his death, according to the NBC News: Epstein's hanged himself overnight in his cell and was taken to a local hospital from the MCC on Saturday morning in cardiac arrest, per the Department of Justice's official statement. On Saturday, August 10th, 2019, at approximately 6:30 a.m., inmate Jeffrey Edward Epstein was found unresponsive in his cell in the special housing unit from an apparent suicide at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York, New York. Life-saving measures were initiated immediately by responding staff. Staff requested emergency medical services, and life-saving efforts continued. Mr. Epstein was transported to the EMS by a local hospital for treatment of life-threatening injuries and subsequently pronounced dead by the hospital staff. The FBI is investigating the incident. Sure they are. They probably pulled off the freaking extraction with some blowfish, pufferfish poison or something. Epstein had been taken off suicide watch despite an earlier attempt. 3 weeks before his death, on July 23rd, Epstein had been found semi-conscious in his cell with marks on his neck. Though it was not clear if he had tried to harm himself or had been attacked, prison officials investigated the injury as a possible suicide attempt and put Epstein on suicide watch, which would entail being placed in a special cell where he could be constantly monitored by prison personnel and prevented from having access to any means by which he could take his own life. Epstein was also subject to a daily psychiatric evaluation. During this time, according to a source who spoke with the New York Times, but for reasons still unknown, as of Saturday afternoon, Epstein was taken off suicide watch on July 29th and returned to the MCC special housing unit. According to the Times, typically that should have only happened if the prison's chief psychologist approved the change after evaluating the inmate and justifying why they are no longer at risk of harming themselves. There had also been unconfirmed rumors that Epstein's earlier injuries had been the result of an attack, but he was reportedly found dead alone in his cell on Saturday morning. Here is what the Daily Beast reported regarding the earlier possible suicide attempt and perpetrated glimpse of Epstein's behavior. Epstein had initially been held in general population at MCC, where he'd been targeted for extortion as a wealthy pedophile. A source with knowledge of his circumstance told the Daily Beast, describing Epstein's injuries from his prior alleged suicide attempt as small abrasions around his neck. At the time of that attempt, he shared a cell with Nicholas Tartaglone, a former police officer charged with kidnapping and murdering 4 people in 2016. Tartaglone lawyer Bruce Barkett told authorities his client had saved Epstein's life during the first suicide attempt by alerting correction officers. He claimed Tartaglone was being implicated in the suicide attempt because he'd recently complained about conditions at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, saying in the statement at the time, "We warned the judge that officials at the jail would retaliate against Nick because we have been exposing the inhumane conditions at the facility." A source added that while protocols were followed, that after his previous apparent suicide attempt, Epstein received no preferential treatment. The Beast's source said that Epstein lived like a pig in a sty after his first attempted suicide, eating meals off the floor and making frequent requests for toilet paper. The investigations into Epstein's death. The Department of Justice announced on Saturday that the FBI had opened an investigation into the circumstances of Epstein's death. Attorney General William Barr additionally announced that the Justice Department inspectors general would be conducting an investigation. Barr said he was appalled to learn that Epstein had taken his own life while in federal custody and that the incident raises serious questions that must be answered. It seems likely that there will also be some congressional inquiries into the matter. The impact on the case against Epstein and investigation into his crimes. One major consequence of Epstein's death will be the effect on the investigation into his abuse of countless underage girls, as well as the potential consequences for his accomplices. According to former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti, the case against Epstein dies with him. See, that's what it's all about right there. Jeffrey Epstein's suicide ends the criminal case against him because no one else was charged in the indictment. It means that there won't be a public trial or other proceedings that could reveal evidence of his wrongdoing. Evidence collected via grand jury subpoena won't be released to the public. It is still likely that the public will learn additional information from civil cases by victims against his estate or non-criminal investigations. For example, DOJ. At the cut, Matthew Schneider points out that after Epstein's death, thousands of questions may never have satisfactory answers, and focus is likely to intensify on his collaborators, co-conspirators, enablers, and friends. Schneider then highlights what a trove of newly unsealed court documents says about Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's best friend and alleged accomplice. Epstein's associates may now receive the full brunt of prosecutors' attention, according to the Miami Herald's Julie K. Brown. With Epstein's death, prosecutors in likely Southern District of New York will likely refocus their probe on Maxwell, Sarah Palin Vickers, Adriana Ross, and Leslie Groff, all of whom allegedly helped run Epstein's operation in the mid to late 2000s. Another woman, Nadia Marciakova, who is now a commercial pilot, was accused of sexually abusing some of the underage girls. The Miami Herald, Julie K. Brown passed along some reactions from Epstein's stunned victims. Jenna Jones, who was molested by him when she was 14, said that Epstein took the coward's way out. "I just can't believe it. We were finally feeling that we might have some justice after all these years," she said, her voice cracking. Eva Ford, the mother of the victim, Courtney Wild, was angry. How does someone who is with this high profile commit suicide? They had to have cameras on him. Someone you must have been paid to look the other way, Ford said. "I just wanted him to be held accountable for his actions. I would never wish that someone would die, but he took the easy way out," said victim Michelle Licata. Added Jack Scarola, an attorney representing several of Epstein's victims. It is inexplicable how such a high-profile person on suicide watch could commit suicide without help. Epstein once again cheated his victims out of an opportunity for justice. While I'm sure none of them regret his death, all of them regret the information that died with him. The one expectation is that Epstein's death not derail the investigation into others who participated in his criminal activities. There are named and unnamed co-conspirators who still need to be brought to justice. I agree with that. There are more people that need to be brought to justice about this, but there also needs to be, the FBI needs to be investigated to make sure they weren't a part of it, but also he needs to be investigated to make sure that the suicide actually happened, and make sure that he didn't just get out of there with his money. Like, he could have just got a reboot, here, take all my money, reboot. And knowing him, he'd go right back to doing what he was doing, because there's still people out there that, I'm sure that the business didn't stop just because he went to jail. There was all these other people running it for him. And even if he's dead, somebody stepped in. It's like it's like the Hydra. You cut its head off, 3 more grow back. The beast system that we're all a part of, because we work for the same corporations that spend their money on these services. That's what it is to them, a service. To me, it's a disgusting act. We're all victims. Some of us more than others, but we're all victims of the same system. Let me know what you think below. Do you think he committed suicide? Do you think he was murdered? Or do you think he got out scot-free? One love, one vibration.